First thing I want to do is just some order of business. I want to thank a few people for coming. I want to thank you all for coming, actually. It's a great turnout. It's kind of interesting because I look over the audience and I see so many people here that we're working with on different projects, so it's kind of interesting that we're all together here today to look at all these projects. I want to thank Linda Cole for coming. She's my boss, so it's always nice when your boss is willing to pay money to hear you talk. I want to thank Amy Stackloff, the town clerk, for coming, because she can hear this for free anytime she wants, and usually does. And Tony the Fountain, of course, who's very supportive. And I also want to thank Mike. Mike Smith has been great this year to work with. He's there whenever you need him. He's been in the town hall numerous times throughout the year trying to work out various issues with us and giving us information. So I want to thank each and every one of you for coming. And hopefully we'll all learn something today. It seems like yesterday that we were here. It's like this year went by so quickly. I can't believe it, but we were just doing this a few weeks ago. So why don't we move forward? We're going to take our annual trip around the town of Penfield, let you know what's going on this year, and then what's going on next year, for what we know so far. Go right ahead. We're going to talk about what's been accomplished in 2013, what's proposed for next year, status of some of the most vacant sites in town, and this one is directed to Jack Best, who is my mentor and keeps me honest every year, so I have to try and knock these sites down a little bit and make them more profitable for everybody. Then we're going to just talk a little bit about the plans and programs that are taking place in the town of Penfield and where we are with those. So, Ralph, next one up. The first one I have to give kudos to, it's too bad he's not here, actually. I have to give kudos to Tony LaFountain. Without him, this never would have happened, and I think it's probably one of the best things for the town that has occurred in the last several years. We did finally get our left-hand turn arrows, and so far everything's working well. And kudos to him. It's too bad he'll never see this slide. So, we were lucky enough to have an established restaurant that came in a couple of years ago, Rosie's in the Four Corners. They had done well enough where they decided to expand their operation, and they took over the old Allstate Insurance Agency at 2131 5 Mile Line Road, and they've doubled in size now, and it's much more comfortable. The food's, I think it's even better because you're more comfortable there, if that's possible. But we're very happy for them to be able to make that expansion, and we're going to see that in a couple of situations today where people have been able to expand their operations, and we're very pleased with that. This is another success story. We had Stephanie Wilkinson go in last year and open up the old Humphrey House. They renamed it Signatures at the Humphrey House, and they were doing well enough where they decided to expand the operation. They put an outdoor dining porch on, so in the springtime you'll be able to go out and spend the evening there if you'd like. They will have outdoor dining, and we're very pleased they were able to open that up, and that's a very successful operation. Good for them. One of my favorites this year was the Ron and Joyce Baruti spent a lot of money cleaning up the old building at 1823. I'm sorry, that's the wrong address, but it is 1823 Penfield Road. They were able to relocate the Incognito and Tuxedo Shop into their building. I have a really great picture of that building at night. If you get a chance to drive by it, it's a beautiful sight at night to see retail and service operating at that location again. Unfortunately, what they did was it opened up a vacancy at the old Tuxedo Park on the corner. I know there is interest in filling that space and possibly even rehabbing the building a little bit, and we're going to be working with some people over the next several months to see if that can happen. This is the old Dollop cupcake operation. That's no longer operational. I guess once you get famous, you go on to bigger and better things, and certainly Heather did that. We do have a new operator coming in to fill the vacancy. It's a gourmet chocolate and gift shop. They've been working on the property. They've actually painted it and cleaned it up a little bit, and they'll be opening up fairly shortly at that location. I don't know if anybody's been to this new restaurant, 5 Mile Cafe, but if you haven't, you really should. It's a breakfast lunch restaurant, primarily. Great breakfast. I go there a lot. So if you get a chance, stop in. It's relatively new, I think about 4 or 5 months old, but it's a fabulous operation, so if you get a chance, stop in. There's going to be some remodeling done at the old Penfield Hots. They've actually done some remodeling. They've re-sided the building. They're going to bump out the right-hand side of that building over where you see the air conditioner to provide for ice cream service. And that'll be done over the winter months or early spring, and so next summer you'll be able to go there for ice cream. You can walk up and get ice cream or go inside and eat if you'd like. This is also one of my favorites. This is in the Incognito shop. This was an old barn that was behind 2105 5 Mile Line Road. It was in really bad shape. Bob Lindsay and Ben Kendick, who owned the property at 2105, and they also own the property at the Canandaigua National Bank. They rehabbed this building and have installed Yotini frozen yogurt on the site. The building is absolutely gorgeous, and you know, again, I love having good uses in these buildings, but primarily what I'm really concerned about is actually making sure the building is safe and sound and looks good for the public on an ongoing basis. So we're very pleased with the efforts they put forth on that. This is a little dog grooming operation called the Hounds of Love. It's located right behind the Enchanted Rose Garden. You might remember it as Cord's Pool Supply many, many years ago, if anybody's that old. Unfortunately, I'm probably the only one that does. But they've opened up their little shop there, and they're doing very, very well. And they've cleaned up that building quite a bit, too, so that was nice to get them in place. Our friends Lalit and Nareed Shah are in the process of getting approvals. They actually have received approvals. Their intent was initially to build a 6,000 square foot building to the left of their existing building on Penfield Road. They haven't been very successful in obtaining tenants to fill the space, so in the interim they are going to be grading the site to allow for the development to occur. They're also going to be building a 1,280 square foot building behind the existing building at 2041 Penfield Road to allow Nareed to operate his business, which is tax accounting and tax law, from that location. So that should be started fairly soon. And we had Menchie's come in. That was a vacant space for a while, and we filled that at Parkside Commons. And we're going to talk about a little bit about the properties, the plazas in town, just to talk about vacancies and that type of thing, to give you an idea of what's happening with vacancies in town. So we're very pleased to have them there. This is the newest addition to Penfield. This is the Tim Hortons. It was just recently finished. It's been open for maybe a month or so, I guess, 3 weeks, a month. And that was the old Joe Lou office building over on Penfield Row, which was taken down, and this is now taken its place. This is under construction as we speak. They're doing the site work. This is the Jeremiah's Tavern that's going to be built in front of the Doodlebugs. Doodlebugs is right here. Jeremiah's will be built in this area right here. And they're under construction now, and hopefully they'll be open sometime after, sometime in late February, I guess, or early March. And we had an addition to our friends at the Hess gas station on the corner of Penfield Road and Route 250. They have actually added a driving lane and a drive-up window to the back of that building to allow for Burger King to sell from that site. That's now becoming a big thing for Burger King around the country to do that. We didn't think it was going to fit. We were very concerned about it, but it actually turned out very well, and a lot of good things came out of it. They did a better job on their stormwater management program, and there's actually a better controlled traffic situation on the site than there was prior to that being installed, so it's worked out pretty well. Very proud of this building. The one on the left is the old Empire Weeklies. I don't know if everybody remembers that on Empire Boulevard, but that building was in a sad state of affairs. Nobody's really done anything to it for a number of years. It was also, Hadlock House of Paints was in there for many, many years. Fred Rinaldi bought that building. He also owns the one to the right, which was the old Ellen Berry building many years ago, but is now a medical complex. He's working with RGH to upgrade both properties. He actually turned the one to the left into a dialysis center, which is going to be open, from what I understand, 24 hours a day, if I'm not mistaken. The one on the right is the existing medical complex. He is going to be doing some rehab to the exterior to make it look more in keeping with the one to the left. He's also going to add another 2,000 square feet plus or minus onto the right-hand, to the left-hand side of that building, turning the entire site into a medical complex. So we're upgrading Empire Boulevard one property at a time. This is just an update. We talked about it a little bit last year. The Daniele family is in the process, along with others, to develop an apartment complex on Empire Boulevard. You can see the activity. I took this picture last week for the purpose of letting you know that it's underway. They are in the process of remediating the site. There's about 4.6 acres that needs to be remediated with contaminated material. They're in the process of doing that now. And from what I understand, they may be finished with that by the end of this month. They are in the process of having their plans signed off by the town staff, and I anticipate a building permit will be issued probably within the next month or so. This is another project that we're currently reviewing. The town board has had this before for a few months. They're intending, the Daniellis are intending to expand their docking operation. This is the existing docking. They have 186 slips here. They want to kind of mirror that over on this side. We've been going through the review process. They've been with the DEC for several months. Last night, the town board determined that there was a need for an environmental impact statement, so they will be preparing an impact statement to address their proposal. And we'll go through the seeker process with them and identify any potential impacts associated with the project. This is a small project, but it's kind of important. It's the Vision Dodge on Penfield. I'm sorry, on Panorama Trail. They're in the process of refurbishing the exterior of their building. They're going to add a little bit of a showroom. So they're going to upgrade that building a little bit and make it a little more attractive than what it's been over the last few years. This is kind of a neat project. They're going to take the old Saturn dealership and they're going to convert it into the Jaguar and Land Rover dealerships that are currently over on Ridge Road in Webster. Mike Peeler's group is going to relocate over here, and the Vision Dodge is to the back of the property, and they'll stay in place as they are. So that's going to be a nice fill-in for that property. It's been vacant for a little while. It'll be nice to get that back in operation. And again, I showed this, and I see my friends from Family First are probably cringing. Yeah. But in fairness to all, we did have Advantage Federal Credit Union open up in the old bank over at Browncroft Corners Plaza earlier this year, and they are keeping us all honest. We just had, I have to laugh because I think I take good pictures compared to other people, but then I look at them and they're all on angles, and I can't understand how you can sit in a parking lot, be level to the ground, and still have a picture where you have a like a 30-degree angle on a roof line. But in any event, the reason I took it is because Little Caesars just opened up in Penn Fair Plaza, and they took up one vacancy that was there for a while, so we're very pleased about that. This is kind of nice. I don't know if anyone's been out to Baytown yet, but Baytown's doing some major upgrades. They actually had blown a hole through the middle of the old Tops Plaza area. And Tops, once they left, I mean, they had been sitting vacant for several years. They opened that up, and they've created a street of shops on both sides of what used to be the Tops building. And you can drive through and park in front of those properties, which is nice. They are in the process right now of filling those vacancies. I think one has been filled to date. We'll talk a little bit about that, too, a little bit later. This is what I want to show you. We always talk about what are the vacancies in town, what's the percentage of occupancy versus percentage of vacancy. I went through last year versus this year, and I just took the plazas, the main plazas that we all shop at on a regular basis, just to see how they're doing in terms of their vacancies. And actually, they're doing pretty well. Baytown, I've got an asterisk at Baytown, and the reason I do is because they just built 20 open spaces that they haven't been able to fill yet. So it looks a lot worse than it was. They had 8 vacancies before they started the work. They're now up to 20 vacancies, but they are starting to fill those. And actually, when you look at the number of people that are coming in, or the number of vacancies that they have, it's kind of in reference to the fact of the number of places they have. But I suspect they'll start filling those vacancies fairly soon. But you look at some of the others. I mean, there's very low vacancies on some of these plazas. I was kind of surprised when I went through and saw the few vacancies that we have, because everybody sees, you see Ozzy's or you see something like that, and you say, God, there's a lot of vacancies in the town, but realistically, there aren't that many when you're looking through. This is kind of a misnomer, because there are about 5 spaces that are covered and they're interior to the plaza that are vacant, and I think they're generally always vacant. I can't remember anybody actually being in there. I don't know if he's using it for storage area or what, but those are vacancies for tenants, for lease space that he has. And then again, Wegmans over at 250 and 441, they've got 1 vacancy. That was actually filled earlier in the year, and it's become vacant once again. So at one point in time this year, they were at full capacity for occupancy. And I went through and I kind of looked at all the districts that we have we have our 6 districts, and you look at the vacancies compared to the number of lease spaces, and if you add up all those percentages, which get to be kind of high, and again, we talked about Empire Boulevard. Empire Boulevard, again, we incorporated the new 20 spaces that were built at Baytown. There are some vacancies in other locations that are minor, but you look at 18% at that site, and then you look at 13 here. And the reason I've got that as an asterisk is because North Forest Office Park was they just built 12 new units. They've just gotten their C of O for that building in the last month or so. So they're in the process of filling those spaces right now. And that property, we talked a couple of years ago, that property was at 85% vacancy. And now they've got almost everything filled. They've actually got 1 tenant in the new building. They've got 11 vacancies that they're trying to fill now. So even that number will go down pretty drastically as soon as they get those sites filled in. And what's happening for 2014? The planning board just approved a hotel, 6-story, 80-unit hotel over where Rinky Dink Golf Course used to be, and that'll be under construction, I would think, probably in the next 2 months or so. We're in the process of signing off their plans at this point in time. So that'll be a nice addition to that area. I think we need more hotel space in town. Keep going. Oh, you're going backwards, I'm sorry. There you go. So people have been asking about what's happened to the old Roadhouse and why it can't be filled. And evidently they've tried to fill that site, and to no avail. Nobody wants to utilize it as a restaurant. We have had interest from AutoZone, who would like to come in, tear down that restaurant, and build a new AutoZone at that location. The 2 issues at hand right now is the aesthetics of the building aren't quite what we want to see for a 4-sided building in the parking lot at Panorama Plaza. They're going to have to, work on that aspect of it. The second part of it is you'll notice that this building is quite a bit higher than what they're proposing for this building. It is in a floodplain. They are entitled to lower the building somewhat, provided they provide us with a floodplain management program to make sure that if there's a flood in that area, they are well versed on how to put floodgates and everything else into their open areas. TOPS has been doing this for a long, long time. TOPS has a very trained staff that knows how to do this and are aware of the consequences if they don't. We're going to have to train this group if they come in to do this to show what kind of impacts could occur if they don't take care of this properly. So that'll be before the board, I think, in February or so. One of the exciting things that we've been working on recently, and I want to give a round of applause to Ron Baruti and Joyce Baruti, and also Paul Thompson, who bought the old Hawkins liquor store. We have been negotiating with them to create a public parking lot in this area. We're also working with Tony DePrima. He's willing to share his parking as well. So over the next few months, we're going to be working with them to try and create a public parking lot that everybody has right of access to. And we'll start looking at improvements on a yearly basis to that area to make sure that it's safe and functional. But I give Ron a lot of credit. He's been with us from day one to try and get this resolved, and it's going to be a big help to get that into a public setting, I think. The next thing is good news on Mott's Lane. We finally did finalize our negotiations with Dr. DePietro. He is supportive of the extension of the road. We're going to be building this road in the spring of 2014. It's the second project online. The first project online for the Highway Department is to rehab Baird Road north of Wayland to Atlantic. The second project will be the extension of Mott's Lane, so hopefully that'll get resolved. The YMCA, Kevin's here. I thought I'd give you some kudos. YMCA, very popular location. They're going to be adding on 35,000 square feet, plus or minus? 25,000, I'm sorry, yeah. You're going to be adding 25,000 square feet on for various improvements and programs that they have. And we are very pleased to have Kevin come in. He's been a great partner to work with over the last few years. And this one is for Jack Best. I've saved the best for last. I was actually going to write that in there, but I let it go. This is the one Jack asks about every single year that we've done this. And where we are right now is the town board approved a small Italian restaurant on this site. And they did it subject to adequate parking, and the fire district provided parking for the operation. And we were thankful to the fire district for stepping up and doing that. The board also required that the building be upgraded, the exterior of the building be upgraded. The owner has hired a contractor to come in, and they should be starting, I think they're waiting for the materials at this point in time, but they should be starting the exterior remodel of that property any second now. I'm surprised it hasn't already started. In addition to that, the tenant will go in and start cleaning up the interior, and hopefully they're going to be open, I think, right after the holidays, somewhere in early February. So that one's for you, Jack. This is another interesting one. This is the one on the corner of Creek Bay and Empire, the old mobile station. There's a group called Qdoba Mexican Restaurants. They're primarily based in the middle Atlantic states down near North Carolina, Delaware, Pennsylvania. They're going in the next 5 years to open up, I believe, 200 new restaurants in New York State. And they've chosen this site for one reason or another to open up their first restaurant. They're not going to tear down the building. They're going to rehab the building and add on to it. There's a small addition. I'm sorry you can't see it over here, but it's right in that area. But they're going to have an outdoor dining area. They're going to have fire pits. They're going to totally clean up the building and make it look really nice. And they'll be taking down that canopy as well for parking area. So they'll be into the board, I think, in either December or the first meeting in January. And hopefully by springtime you'll see some improvements at that location. So those are two big sites that have been eyesores to the town for a long, long time. They're both going to be cleaned up and put back into a useful setting. This one everybody asked about. This is a popular area right now. This is over on Panorama Trail across from what was Bob Hastings, was now Saturn, and then is now Vision Dodge, or Vision Group. This property was approved as a hotel in 2001, and all sorts of terrible things happened in 2001 that caused them not to build this. But it's been sitting there, and in addition to this property, Camp Hakamo, which sits behind it, is also for sale, and I've had several people come in to look at the possibility of developing either multi-residential or multi-residential development for elderly at this location. It does make good sense. I mean, we're not getting anybody in that's showing any interest in building commercial on the site, but there is an opportunity to build multi-residential at this location, and all the services are in close proximity to it. So it might make good sense to do that. Nobody's actually made an application, but I have about 3 or 4 entities that are all interested in the sites right now. So hopefully next year at this point in time I'll be able to tell you something differently than I've told you the last 4 or 5 years. And this is our favorite little gas station on Browncroft Boulevard. The canopy is gone. This is an older picture, but the property is in the process of being remediated. There's contaminated materials on site. The owners have had a system in place now for about 2 or 3 years. It is being monitored on a regular basis by the DEC. There's still work to be done on that site, so it's going to be a little bit longer before they can actually go ahead and pull the materials off the site for the remediation process. And obviously nobody wants to buy the property until it's been remediated because it's a liability to anybody who picks up contaminated material. So it's going to be a situation where as soon as it's remediated, I'm certain that there's going to be a lot of interest. I have talked to a couple people that are interested in it, but they're going to wait until they see how the remediation process takes place. And once that's done, I think that'll be a popular site to be redeveloped. And that's been a big problem. Again, here's another situation on the corner of Atlantic and 250. That is a big problem in Penfield. There are a lot of sites, particularly old gas stations, particularly old dry cleaning establishments. They are all primed for contaminated soils, and it's a big issue, and it takes a lot of money. It takes a lot of time to get these sites cleaned up. That's primarily why they're not being redeveloped at this time. And here's another example, and this is probably the classic example, is the fact that this site is contaminated. It was the old Cleantown dry cleaning establishment. It has been identified as being a contaminated site, and the cost of remediating the contamination is pretty astronomical. The owner has looked at the possibility of redeveloping the site for a Class E chassis. I'm not so certain he's in the process of doing it at this point in time. He did get an approval, but the remediation process, I think, has slowed him down, and I'm not certain where that's going to go at this point in time. And then I decided to stop on an upbeat situation versus giving you all these downbeat scenarios. But this is the property. Again, you've got Doodlebugs here. You've got Jeremiah's here. Last night, the town board spoke to the representatives of Panera Bread, and Panera Bread is interested in building a site here. And they're going to be coming back to the board with some more defined plans, but they are interested in moving forward, and I suspect they'll be making an application to the town board sometime early next year to develop a Panera Bread at that location. So that'll be a nice fill-in for that property as well. And I just want to talk a little bit about where we are. A lot of people here are interested. Some are, some aren't. But a lot of people are interested in what's happening with these mixed-use zoning districts that we're talking about. The town of Penfield has commissioned some contractors from down south to develop a mixed-use zoning district both at the Route 250 corridor north of, and including actually, the YMCA, or the East Side Y, I guess is the most appropriate way to say it now. All the way up to Atlantic Avenue, then northward to Penfield Center Road. Actually, if you could go ahead, Ralph. I could go one more too, I guess. It's this area here is Penfield Center Road, Atlantic Avenue, and the Y is right down in here. We're looking at developing a new mixed-use district. We recognize that we need more commercial property in town to offset the tax issue that the residents are dealing with. And as a result, we also understand we don't want to see big box development in that area of town. So the compromise was to create mixed-use development areas to provide for multiple types of residential use, as well as interspersing it with service commercial, small retail, that type of thing. So we're in the process right now of developing this district. We have a committee in place. The committee is now at about 80% of where it needs to be for a final product. We will be meeting again on November 19th in the afternoon. We meet twice in the afternoon, one at 4 o'clock and then one at 6:30. And if anybody here is interested in coming to those meetings, you're more than welcome to do that. They're open meetings. And it might be interesting for you to see what is being proposed for Route 250. The second one, go ahead, Ralph, is Manitou Lake, the old pond area. What was the old Manitou sand quarry where they made concrete and all sorts of other good things. That is now closed down. We've identified this site as being a potential, probably not to the degree of intensity of use as the 250 area, because there isn't as much area there obviously to work with, but certainly to provide some type of mixed-use activities at that location to take advantage of the pond. We would also like to take public access around the pond and possibly use of the pond for the public's benefit. We think we can do that with a mixed-use development versus just having a single-family detached residential being built on the site. So that could be a very exciting project as we move forward. Again, we're at the 80% mark here, and hopefully we'll be able to wrap this up at the end of the year, just after the end of the year. So. Then the last thing, and I know Mike Quinn is out there, he's always interested in what the status of our recodification process is for our code. We are still working on it. We met with the town board the other night. We still have a little bit of work to do. We have basically kind of rewritten our code to accommodate the recodification process. We will be sending that off to general code, and then we're going to end up having to have public hearings for the public to come in and view the document and make comment to it. It's going to be a different document than what we have today, so I urge you all, as this comes out to the public, keep an eye on that code because it will be somewhat different than what it is today. And once we get it to the public's liking and we have a public hearing and everybody agrees what the final product should be, we will then go back to general code and have them put it on the internet, and you won't have to go looking for our code book in our website every time you need it. So hopefully that'll happen sometime by mid next year. And that's about all I have. I hope that's enough, but I know you have a lot of work to do here today, and I didn't want to take up the whole afternoon, but if anybody has any questions, you're more than welcome to ask. Nothing? Nobody? All right. Thank you.